If you came in a little while ago, that you have your first day of school on St. Patrick's Day, and there's a rainbow that just formed over Van Hoos. So we don't see many rainbows over Van Hoos. So we were out there taking pictures before walking in. Beautiful, if you get the chance to see it. So thank you for joining us here to finish out the day. A great first day. It's the first time we'll probably have multiple first days. So this was our first day. And we felt like it was a great success. It's been a long day, I know. First of all, I want to thank the JCPS team, who I believe the communications team has been going since 4:30 this morning. So, you know, we're going on, 15 hours now of hard work, and they've done a great job. And I want to thank all of our team for such great work today. The hard work put into this. It was an all hands on deck today. We wanted to make sure we got off to a great start, especially for our youngest students, and especially our schools. I can't thank our schools enough for all their hard work. Despite what a lot of people think, our schools have been prepared since the fall, early in the fall. We started this last summer, and they have been ready to go. And I have just been inspired today by the enthusiasm that our educators throughout our schools, and I'm sure if you were in our schools, you could feel it today. You could feel our elementary educators who were just so excited to be back, to see kids, a lot of emotion throughout all of our schools today, and that was just inspiring to me. You know, as I've said multiple times today, all educators get into this because we want to interact with kids. We want to be with children. We want to teach, learn, have relationships with kids, see them be successful, see those success stories. You can't replace in-person instruction. And so it's been a difficult year because I know that our teachers, our staff, our educators have wanted to do that, but we also want to do it safely. And to see today, to be able to see that in reality, to open up the doors back again to all of our youngest elementary school kids was special. And as I've said, I was a high school person for 2 decades, and high school is very different. We'll be opening up high school in about 2.5 weeks now. So it's very different. You know, elementary school kids will still be in a little bit, you know, when I walk in, they'll be like, oh, there's the superintendent, I see you on television. High school kids usually could care less. But you know, it's a whole different thing with high school kids. I loved high school kids. But since I've been superintendent, I found a love for interacting with elementary school kids too, which most people are very surprised to know me as a principal in high school. That I would really love interacting with our elementary school kids. So today was very special, you know, and it gets emotional when you see kids walking in our school buildings. I want to take a second to thank the schools that allowed me to visit. I remembered when I was a principal on opening day at J-Town High School, and the superintendent was coming to visit. You felt like I've got enough on my plate today trying to make the first day great. I really don't need the superintendent also visiting with all the cameras and media. So I really want to thank the principals of Chansey, Bowen, Cochran, Medora, Blue Lick, and Smyrna, all 6 schools. And I want to thank the faculty and staff of those schools. You know, the energy and excitement, the school culture in those 6 schools was just fantastic. You could just feel it in each of those 6 schools the minute you walk in the door. You feel something special about those educators who just could not wait to see their kids come back to them. And it was a little bit different of a first day because, you know, they knew the kids. You know, we went into Medora and they had on the walls, they had the picture of the teacher without the face mask on, and next to it was a picture of the teacher with the face mask on because the kids were used to seeing the teacher virtually without the face mask, and now they were going to see the picture of the kid with, or the teacher with the face mask. So schools just doing innovative things. We've had a lot of questions about, you know, were schools going to be able to follow guidelines and all the protocols, the CDC guidelines. And I just, you know, as I said, we've got a long way to go, but kids stepped up. I mean, these were our youngest kids, kindergarten, first, second graders who stepped up, staff stepped up. You know, we were in there for lunches, social distancing, hand washing, all the things that were happening that we want to happen. I can't say enough about our schools and how they stepped up and our kids stepped up, and you could feel the excitement in every classroom that you went in. A couple highlights from me. Julius, my man Julius at Cochran Elementary, who was dressed to the nines and had his vest and tie on, and he was looking fantastic with his bright red shoes. You could see he was waiting to come back to school. I had to take my picture with him. And then the young lady at Medora, I think it was first grade, who says, "I see you on the news, and my mom says that you," and I was like, "Oh, wait, don't," we didn't know what was going to be said there, but she said that you are going to send us back to school. And I said, "Okay, we'll take that one." So I wasn't sure. You know, the great thing about young students, kindergarten, first graders, they tell the truth. They're very truthful with you, and you usually have no idea when they're going to say things, but it's always kind of refreshing, and to be in the cafeteria and see them eating lunch and talking to them again. I mean, it's been a year since we've really been able to interact with kids like that, and it's just inspiring to us to be able to do that. Even at Medora, I popped in, there was a teacher teaching virtual class for kids that were coming tomorrow, and so I popped on the virtual class, and you could tell the kids couldn't wait to be in those classrooms tomorrow. So real positive day for us, a lot of positive energy. Our bus compounds all cleared by 6. As you probably saw on most of our buses, they did not have a whole lot of kids on them. So we had about a little over 7,200 kids in attendance today. I think 7,274 was the number that we had in attendance today at our schools, which was a great opening day to start with. One of the, we've tried to learn from things from COVID, and I've shared some of those throughout the time. One thing I heard from our elementary school principals today, we would love, as we move forward, to add days to the calendar that would be specifically for K through 2, transitioning like today. Let's bring our K through 2 students in for 2, 3, 4, 5 days and let them transition and get used to it, without, the very full schools. And so we've been talking today, could we implement a model where we bring in K through 2 on a regular school year, open it up a week early, and maybe 6th graders at middle school and 9th graders at high school, to let them transition and work on those transitions with our kids, teach them the routines in schools, build relationships, because we find those transition years are some of the toughest times for kids. So let's let them have that extra time. And I think that's an important part of COVID-19. We're going to look back on this and say a lot of tragedy caused by COVID-19, and there is no doubt kids being out of school is a tragedy and something we're going to have to work with for years to come. But we've got to learn, and that's what we can do in every single school. The principal told me we would love to have time like this with our K through 2 students before bringing all of our students in. Tomorrow, as you know, we will go with Group B. So it will be a larger group. Tomorrow is our K through 5 students in Group B, all students with the last name L through Z. So tomorrow we will have about double the amount of kids in our elementary school, 15,000. So we're going from about 7,200 students to 15,000 students in our elementary school. So it's a good progression for us to do that and get our kids in school. We had about 4,000 bus riders today, 700 buses on the road. We expect to double that number tomorrow. So we'll go from about 4,000 kids on buses today to about 8,000. So Group B is tomorrow. So if you are a Group B student in elementary school, L through Z last name, let's get those outfits out tomorrow. Let's get ready for that first day of school. I know you're fired up. We can't wait to get in school. I'm going to be in 3 schools tomorrow. So I will have 9 schools that I will see by the end of the first 2 days. Group B, you will be going Thursday and Friday. Our Group A youngest ones that were today, K through 2, along with 3, 4, and 5 will be going Monday and Tuesday. So essentially we'll have a 3rd opening day on Monday with those kids in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. We'll be excited to see those. And then, as you know, 2 weeks later on April 5th will be our 3rd opening day, really our 4th opening day for middle and high, and that will be Group A on Monday and Tuesday. And then we'll have the final opening day on that Thursday and Friday for Group B of middle and high school. So clearly we continue to do this. We got our hands full, but I know the staff at JCPS, we're going to step up and meet the needs of our kids in very positive ways. And I was just inspired to go into classrooms. I was in Blue Lick this afternoon, and you could just tell the kids had moved from NTI right into the classroom and continued on with their learning. In the morning, they were doing great team building things. By the afternoon, they were right into academic standards. And it was like we were teaching yesterday in NTI and moving right into today in person. And that's school after school in JCPS. So I'll finish by thanking all of our schools for their hard work. I can't tell you the amount of work that went into this, to making sure that, as you saw in schools, every third or fourth seat in the cafeteria had a spot where kids would sit, and the kids had numbers, and it was well organized and structured as they entered the cafeteria to sit down. When I walked into Bowen today, and they were handing out breakfast for kids, and the staff were actually meeting kids at the door and escorting them to their classroom, and they had the masks and the temperature checks. Just inspiring to see the work that's happened. And also want to thank our parents. I know they've been patient with us. They've given grace as we have valued safety and health with our faculty and staff. But now we have taken step one into getting back full-time all of our students here in JCPS. So can't wait to see Group B tomorrow. Group A, K through 2, you did a wonderful job today. We'll start with Group B tomorrow, and we will move over the next 2.5 weeks till we get all of our students with the opportunity to come back, and we're looking forward to continuing on with the process. Happy to take any questions that you have at this time.
Will it be the same number of buses transporting those 8,000 students as there were today? I know it's just a small number of kids on each bus today.
Yeah, so we will have about the same bus routes tomorrow. And you saw most of the bus routes had about 10 to 12 kids on them, some a little bit less than that today because it was only K through 2. Most of our bus routes, even when we have the full group, Group B, will have less than 20 students on it. So we will be able to social distance and have one per seat.
Were there any hiccups or trends of things to tweak that you noticed district-wide today for looking ahead?
Yeah, we were thinking actually we were going to have a lot of kids show up that might not be their day. We only had a few kids that showed up that wasn't their day, and our schools did a wonderful job of supporting them. I mean, I think what our schools are seeing is an increase in the amount of kids that are moving from virtual to in-person and dealing with those numbers. And so just since February 19th, for instance, we've had a 4% increase in families that have chosen to switch from the choice, which was staying in the virtual, to move to in-person. And I believe, we're seeing about, some days that we see 100 or 120 each and every day that change. My assumption is we're going to continue to see that. And as parents feel more comfortable, we're going to see more and more selecting to come back, which we welcome that. We welcome all of our children coming back. We're seeing more of our students of color choosing to come back as well. And so that percentage is beginning to increase, which we're happy to see that. But we're going to continue to really ask our parents, if you want to come back, we're ready for you. We'll offer virtual, but we'll also continue to bring those students back. So I think that's going to be an adjustment for many of our schools, especially on the master schedule.
Some people, might feel like by the time you really get going into a good routine, it'll almost be time for summer. I know you said every single day that kids can be in school is valuable. So coming off such a long year, what do these first few days, like this new chapter, signify to you and the community?
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I don't, I got to go into probably 15, 20 classes today, and I think it would be hard-pressed to tell any of those kids that were in those classrooms today, and almost every single one of them, I asked them who's excited to be back in school. I usually ask them what they had for lunch, and, we had square pizzas for lunch, and, square pizzas seem to be an American education tradition, that we all had square pizzas that I loved. But you can't look at their faces and see the excitement of being back in school, actually seeing their teacher in person for the first time this year, and not valuing those amount of days that we have them back in school. talking to our mental health professionals in our schools who, we're just so excited to be able to connect with kids again. All the supports that we provide to our students. And the fact that parents are starting to say, you know what, I think we're going to switch to in-person, that's extremely valuable. And I think every day we have our children in our schools is a day that we have to value. And so if that's 8 weeks, and it's on a hybrid schedule, we're going to take that every single day and value every single day. And I know our educators do the same thing. And I think what it also does is it gets us through this period of time where, we've got to work on all of these processes so that when we can be ready in August to go back full time.
As the honeymoon phase kind of wears off here, and as you said, more and more parents may decide to bring their kids back and increase the population, are there built-in setbacks that you find are anticipating in line along the way? What challenges are you looking to face here?
Well, I think the biggest challenge, without a doubt, is going to be contact tracing and quarantining. I mean, we have to know that in the way it is, and I've talked to many superintendents. I correspond with many superintendents on a regular basis, and they said that a part of returning to school is the contact tracing and quarantining. And that does not mean that schools are being ineffective in what they are doing. That's actually effective. So if we, and many of those cases are from outside of the schools. They're not even inside of the school. They could be a contact tracing or a report from outside of the school, and our schools step up, but we have to quarantine out of safety purposes. And so, I think the challenge will become, the more we do this, the more likely we will be quarantining at times. Hopefully it won't be many staff because of the vaccinations that we have, but we know that's a reality. And so we'll continue to track that. We'll continue to report that publicly and be very transparent about those numbers.
I guess I'm thinking about spring break. Obviously, I'm not worried about flying or going to Cancun, but you can't tell parents what to do.
Nope.
Are you having any conversations with families saying that they're trying to be safe, keep your kids healthy?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to really encourage our families. I'll continue to say this. It's been a long journey in getting our kids back in the classroom. One of the things I was very adamant on from the beginning was that we're not going to open up and then close 2 weeks later. I don't think that was fair to kids. We followed our commitment from the very beginning, although it took a lot of pushback and heat, was to follow the guidelines from the state health department. And so all the time during pre-vaccine, we followed those guidelines. We are seeing that drop right now to the point where JCPS is in Jefferson County is closing in on the yellow. I think I checked right before I came down here on that chart. We're at 11.6 per 100,000 cases. And so, as we see that, if we get under 10, we're in the yellow. That's the lowest we've been since we began this system of having the color-coded system within the state of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So I'm proud, even during a lot of pushback and different guidance and people thinking different things, that we have followed the state health guidelines and really implemented those with success until vaccination. And that's when we said we would look at it differently after vaccination, which we did. But I will say this. The last thing we want is another surge that could threaten the possibility of continuing on with schools. And I think as long as we don't see some significant surge, we will be able to continue on like we are right now. So I would encourage our parents, to follow health and safety guidelines when outside of school. Make sure that, that we travel those guidelines and make sure that we don't do things over spring break that would jeopardize us staying in school right now. So we will encourage that. Obviously, we have no control over that situation, but we would highly encourage that so that we could finish out the year successfully.
Were you able to fill the custodian and school nurse roles?
So yeah, we're real close right now. So, all of our elementary schools, right now are staffed. We have transferred some of our high school. It was an interesting thing, you know, and I think it's another thing we learned. We asked some of our high school principals and administrators if they would go by to one of the local elementary schools and support them in their opening. And I think they saw just the energy, and it really inspired a lot of our high school and middle school administrators who may have walked across a parking lot or drove a couple blocks to a school to pitch in at the beginning, just to help out. But we did transfer some of our custodial staff from our high schools over to our elementary school just to make sure we had them. But right now, we are closing in on fully staffed. Not quite there yet, but confident we will be there by the time we bring our high school and middle school. We have a medical professional nurse in every single elementary school right now. We're closing in on that on high school and middle school. So not 100% of the way there, but we're very confident with the numbers that we are seeing, the steps we're taking, that we're meeting that need.